The Ibrox Channel.
A routine win for Celtic as they head 5 points clear against the gutless Rangers side that after 10 minutes seemed to utterly collapse. I'll be going over the post-mortem of the Old Firm game and I'll be asking, where do we go from here? That all to come. A joyful pod, eh?
A Rangers podcast. This is the Ibrox Channel.
Well, hello, a very warm welcome to the Ibrox Channel podcast. I'm Andrew, and I hope you're as well as can be because, it's not been a good few days, has it? Of course, it is. I'm recording this on Tuesday because I just didn't have any time on Monday to do so, and I think I needed a bit of a day off on Monday, if I'm being honest. But yes, I am here, and I'm going to be going through the post-mortem of the Old Firm game at Parkhead. I took in the game down at the Bermondsey Beer Killer. Absolutely great atmosphere there, and you'll hear a couple of little interviews that I managed to get from a couple of the guys there. Tom White, who is a great character and works with the London branch, and one of the patrons, Billy, he gave me some insight. So it's some very interesting conversations were had during the game and especially after the game as well. So, as usual, I put out my usual tweet in the morning of the game, a little bit of a vote on how you reckon it's going to go. So I asked, do we have what it takes to win at Parkhead today? How do you see it going? So 26% of you voted that Celtic would win, 20% reckoned it would be a draw, 34% of you reckoned that Rangers would win, and 20% of you voted for Gucci belts are overrated. Yeah, no, I got a Levi's belt. They're better. But yes, so when the team sheet came out, I think we're all quite pleasantly surprised, weren't we? Arguably, our strongest 11 out with new signings. So that was quite positive. We saw that Lawrence wasn't there in behind Dessers because, we thought that after Lawrence's kind of performance last week that Clement would put him back in. Obviously, that didn't happen. We stuck with a very, very strong side. But I'll go through the teams. So, of course, for Celtic, they went with Kasper Schmeichel in goal, Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales and Greg Taylor in the back four. Paulo Bernardo, Callum McGregor and Rio Hatate in the midfield three. And of course your kind of attacking force, Kuhn, Kyogo and Dazen Maeda, which I'm sure James Tavernier was hoping he'd pick up a twinge or something, but sadly not. We obviously set up with Jack Butland in goal, left back Hefty, Proper, Suter and Tavernier. So interestingly, Hefty and Suter's, sorry, not Hefty and Suter, Proper and Hefty's first Old Firm game. So it's one of them. You look at that and think how a player's going to handle that. We obviously had Mohamed Diamande, Cora Barron and Dujon Sterling in that middle three. I did like the idea of Sterling just in front of Tavernier because I thought he can help out and kind of track back when out of possession because Tavernier does need that little bit of help. And of course our main attacking force, we had out on the left Rabbi Matondo, who cemented his place after his performance last week against Ross County. We had Vaclav Cherny out on the right. And of course, the man up top, Cyril Dessers, because I've got to be honest, who else is it going to be at the minute? I don't think Danilo would be fully up to speed with an Old Firm game at the minute. But so Celtic's bench, they had a very strong bench. They had, of course, £9 million signing Adam Ida on the bench. Had Lewis Palmer and Austin Trusty, new signing for them, the American there. Sinsalo, Valle, another signing, the loan signing from Barcelona. They had another new signing, Luke McCowan, of course, from Dundee. Their £11 million signing, Arne Engels, and of course they had James Forrest and Tony Ralston on the bench. On our bench, we had Liam Kelly, Tom Lawrence, Nena, I'm going to call him Nena, our new number 24, our right back / centre back from Holland. Of course, Leon Balogun, Hamza Igmane makes the bench for the first time this season, which seemed to be leaked by some press out in his homeland, which was quite interesting the day before. Which turned out to be true. So obviously things have been leaked from the dressing room there a little bit, maybe Hamza himself. Of course, Nicholas Raskan back on the bench. We haven't seen too much of him since his injury. Ross McCausland, Robbie Fraser and Danilo. So it is a stronger bench than what we have been used to in recent times, but you compare the two benches and there's a massive disparity in money, isn't there? But yes, so going into this, I originally predicted, I said it was going to be a 1-1 draw. That's kind of what I felt in my gut, and it's probably because I thought that was the best we could get, which just shows how times have changed, doesn't it? When you're thinking that's probably one of the best results we can get. Obviously, there was a little bit of confidence from some fans in the week. Now, personally myself, I didn't fully feel it. But on the morning of the game, I have to be honest, suddenly I was thinking, oh, you know what, once I saw the team sheet, I thought, oh, we could sneak a 1-0 here. So, yeah, you know, again, a blind faith, not really based on much apart from the squad we saw. Don't get me wrong, I think if that squad plays maybe against their side last year, I think we have a bit of a better chance, because they just were poor. But then again, it's that whole relying on them being poor. So obviously the game started, and it was a fantastic start. You know, first 8 to 10 minutes really positive, without actually really doing anything in the final third. We pressed quite high. I did notice at one point our centre backs were playing a real high line. Both at the back, right at midfield, Proper and Suter. And Celtic were really struggling to get a hold of the ball. Anytime they did have the ball, they were making errors. It was going out of play. We were really pressurising them, snapping at them. And our back two was standing literally on the halfway line. We were pressed up that high, which is very positive to see, because I think just sitting off and defending doesn't really work for us at Parkhead. You know, we managed to flood their half. They struggled to get out of it in that first 10. Again, really rare. You don't really see that. But then their inevitable kind of counter-attack came, didn't it? You know, they picked up the ball in their defensive thirds, and I think it was literally 3 key passes. 3 passes and they were away. Started with McGregor through to Kuhn, who was then 2-on-1. Ball across to Kyogo, and he buries it. Now, there were big shouts for offside at the beer killer. And it did seem to take an age for Beaton to be told that, because I think it was about a minute later he's got his finger on his ear, being told about it. But of course, in Scotland, with VAR, we don't have any of the kind of AI technology that's used, which they use in the Premier League, where I don't want to necessarily say it's AI, but it's automated. So in the Premier League, it's much quicker. It's automated offside. It's dealt with instantly. Whereas for us, it's still the lines are drawn manually. Yeah. Now, I did think it was offside at the time. Looking at it back, you know, it looked it from the line, but you got to be honest, we really did get away with one there. Now, for me, when you're watching an Old Firm game like that, you've started really well. You've lost one break, which seemed to be very clinical, and the goal's been chopped off for offside. When you look back at it, and you think, oh, you know what? Benefit to the attacker, really. We really got away with one there, and we did. Now, when you see that, you start thinking to yourself, oh, this is going to be our day. Because, I know it's about having the better team on the day, but sometimes you've just got to have that little bit of luck as well. And it looked like we were going to get that, and it really did. Now, you would think that motor is on, revert to the high press we've been doing. No, we seem to basically crap the bed, and I don't see how or why we did. There was a point early on where, and there's a couple of videos circulated online from it, because I noticed it on the big screen at the beer killer. There was a pass that Kyogo was looking for that wasn't made by McGregor. Kyogo came right through to the halfway line, kind of pulled back, and then just started a pacing run. Nobody was tracking him. He was on his own, running through the middle of the defence. If the ball would have been played, it would have been a great through ball. And genuinely, it's schoolboy. We all know Kyogo's got some great qualities. Yeah, he's not been in the best form this year. Calendar year. He's not. He didn't exactly have the best season last season, but he still scored important goals for them. And you give him the ball in games like this, he'll exploit, and he does exploit. He's fast. He's pacey. And he's constantly running around. He's driving people everywhere. Well, I say dragging people everywhere, but he didn't in that instance because nobody was marking him. Very worrying. Now, after that, we went up the other end, and I think it was we went for a press. There was a great ball put in by Czerny, and Matondo headed it wide. Now, it was a difficult one. It was a very hard, ferocious cross that came in, and it was just slightly behind Matondo. He did get his head on it, though, and it kind of just goes behind. And you think, okay, we're going to start again, we're going to start putting the pressure on again. And then, boom, the inevitable. And it is inevitable, and you get sick of blooming talking about it. 16 minutes in now, they this season have scored a lot of early goals. They've been putting their games to bed very early, very quickly. This is what they did today. On Sunday, they got that chance. They scored with it. Now, it was a decent move. Let's break the goal down. So, again, it was 3 passes that open us up. Them little triangular little passes that they do that are so quick, so simple, that we never pick up on. Now, it came from a throw-in. Obviously, they take their throw-ins quickly. We never learn from that. We never learn from that ball that's just played in front for them to latch onto. Bernardo gets the byline, ball straight across, Proper commits, and I think he obviously he slips. Again, no one for us looking like we'd be first to any of these balls in that move. It was dink, dink to the byline, ball across. And Maeda reacts. Of course he does. Now, Tav's really the nearest man to Maeda. Tav is a couple of yards in front of Maeda, but still loses Maeda and is able to put it away. Now, when you look at it going in, you do see Jack Butland. It does kind of come off him a little bit. But I'm not going to be too harsh on Butland for that one, because with that type of ball across and then it's hit quickly, he's kind of adjusting, repositioning, and it's one of them, it's like a sweaty goal in FIFA. It's very difficult sometimes. The ball's kind of played across and somebody's hit it quickly. Even if it is at you, your kind of motion is going one way. So sadly, you couldn't get anything really on it, and it's 1-0. Now, we had the warning from the offside. We've been playing brilliantly, and at this point, suddenly, what we seem to be doing tactically just seemed to stop. And for the love of me, I don't know why. Now, is it as simple as they just have better players than us and we just can't cope? Possibly. And I think they do have better players. I'm not saying that they don't have better players, but you can still match some of their things that they do. You put the energy in, you keep tracking your runners. You tighten up a little bit defensively. You make sure everyone's talking, everybody's trying to stop what's happening, and it's just far too easy for that goal. And again, when that ball's played across the area, it's very rare that one of our players is there straight away to get rid of it, and it is. I'm getting sick of it, to be fair. Later on in the game, another strong Celtic break. Kuhn, Johnston overlapping, then whips another deadly ball into the box. It's missed by everyone apart from Hatate, who hits the ball off the defender. They receive it back, and they thread it straight through to Hatate, who's ghosting in at the back post, and somehow he shanks it wide. He goes to pick his spot and just kind of shanks it wide. Again, a real let-off. That was a gilt-edged chance. But Tav there was looking like a rabbit in the headlights. And I'm not trying to single out Tav here. Nobody really had a good game. We've got to be honest. Diamandi looked bright in certain spurts where he'd take the ball and turn. but they were more clever tactically in trying to prevent him to doing that. They knew not to quite dive in straight away. Any of our attacks where we'd get the ball and start breaking, they're already there mopping it up, and they've already regained possession. You know, their second goal comes from our break. And, yeah. And talking about this, the second goal, we might as well go into it now. Kyogo's goal. Our counter-attack, of course, falls apart very easily. But it's one pass. One pass from our counter-attack breaking up. They've got possession. One pass straight to Kyogo. 30-odd yards out. One touch, and he just rolls it into Butland's left-hand corner. 2-0 game done. Now, I spoke about Jack Butland a few weeks ago. In regards to, he's not really done a lot in Old Firm games. He's generally been picking the ball out the net. That's not all on him necessarily, but it's a trend we're starting to see a lot more of. Now, I did ask the question before, are we just used to having world-class goalkeepers like Alan McGregor, you know, Andy Gorham, the goalie, even Stefan Klos for that matter, a fantastic goalie. Are we just used to having fantastic goalkeepers that when we get a good keeper, that we look at them as bad? Now, personally, no. From watching other football, Jack Butland's not a bad keeper. He has, you know, he's been a bit of a revelation for us coming in because at the point that Alan McGregor was in his career. Now, Alan McGregor, as much as I love him, he was there about 2 seasons too long. We saw him kind of breaking down a bit, not able. He wasn't exactly somebody that came off his line a lot anyway, but it was just refreshing to see somebody coming out claiming crosses, which is something that Butland does really well. Butland's not been one really for saving penalties in his career, but he did save one for us last season. I can't remember who it was against now, actually, but it was impressive because he doesn't do them often. But there is a question to be had now about Butland in these games because, yes, now I will cut him some slack in regards to the point that it was one pass, Kyogo received it, one touch, bottom corner. And that's all in the space of about a second and a half, and all, you know, it's from midfield straight to outside the box. I say outside the box, it was about 30 yards out. Now, obviously the play was going up the other end of the park. He's obviously moved out to kind of push up a little bit to the edge of the area. Not exactly playing a sweeper, but, you know, as the team kind of pushes up. That's part of it. So he's obviously quite not got his bearings when suddenly there's a pass play through to Kyogo who's got a defender in front of him. He's looking to readjust a little. But at the same time, I do think the defence has to do better there as well. Now, granted, you don't expect to concede from there, really, especially when he's kind of killed the ball dead. But Butland's got to get a hand on that. You know, you see some pass backs which are harder than that. And that's being honest. But that wasn't good for us coming into half-time, was it? 2-0 down half-time. If we're going in 1-0 down half-time, all right, you can reset. You can maybe look at getting back to the game plan. All right, it's not quite gone our way. But, yeah, 2-0 half-time. It was an uphill battle. So I spoke with Tom White from RFCSA London, the London branch, where I took in the game down on Tooley Street in London at the wonderful Bermondsey Beer Keller. It's such a great pub. And they do lots of great Steiners of beer. You get 10% off if you are a London branch member, which I am. And so I spoke with Tom. I'm going to play the recording for you now. And this was his thoughts kind of on the state of play at half-time. Right, so it's half-time here at the Bermondsey Beer Keller down in glorious London. It's a lovely day, but not if you're a Rangers fan. We are currently 2-0 down. A bit of a weird game. I'm here with Tom White from the RFCSA London, the London branch, Rangers Supporters Club. How did that first half go for you? Dare I ask?
Well, like most things, Andy, it's disappointing. Again, we seem to be, kind of put it, backing off and not anticipating the pace that Celtic always come with us. So, yeah, disappointing. 45 minutes to go though, so there's still a game, there's still a result to be had, and hopefully we'll do something I would hope that the management's going to change the team at half time and make not only tactical decisions and switches, but bring some fresh legs on, because we seem we're right off the pace.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a weird one, because you looked at the team sheet before it came out and you thought, that's kind of the team you'd choose, isn't it? You look at it and you think, Diomande for Lawrence, there's a bit of pace in there, somebody that can create. And to be fair, he's had not a bad game so far. He has been able to get the ball down and go. But after that offside goal, which was offside before any conspiracy theorists start, it was rightfully chopped off. You would think we would motor on a little bit, but we didn't. We just seemed to absolutely just not necessarily collapse, but we just seemed to just stand off a little bit, and things got a bit weird. Of course, they opened the scoring the way they normally do. They love to overlap, love to open up the space, get to the byline, cut it across. One thing though, the 4 yellow cards we've had, which is, I know we've got blue tinted specs, but 4 yellow cards, are any of them, or was it 3? It might have been 3 yellow cards, might have felt like 4, but do you think any of them were actually yellows?
I think there was a couple of yellows there, obviously, yeah. There was a couple of dubious ones, but we're always going to get that. And we can talk about conspiracy theories and why they're not getting the cards, but at the end of the day, I think we started the game well. We had first 5-10 minutes where we pressed them high, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to press them high and keep them in their box. They've got pacey players, which they've had for the last couple of seasons, and we know that. I still don't understand why, from a coaching point of view, we're not telling our players to play the game differently. We all know that when we play the Kilmarnocks and the St Johnsons of this world, that we have to play a different game. So when we come and play them, we have to play a different game. We can't play this passing out from the back and looking for openings when ultimately we've only got one guy up front. They're playing a different game, like they always do. They know that they interact, the movement of their centre forward. Andy, you and I spoke about it. Their centre forward comes into midfield and lays off and lets their midfield players run past their centre halves. And we've got to counteract that. I don't know how we counteract that. Diamande's, I feel, he's on his own in midfield. He's trying his very best. Barron's trying his best as well. But I think we need to, from me, I think we need to strengthen the middle of the park and push them out wide.
We are a little disjointed middle to front. The weird thing is we started that game very well, and you would, in the first 8 minutes, you wouldn't know who the home team were. Celtic couldn't get out of their own half. We were moving the ball around well. The only thing that was missing was any sort of chance. We've had no shots on target. We had, of course, the Dessers offside chance, which luckily it was offside, because that one you've got to bend round the keeper and put in, haven't you? But there's another half of football to go. We do look improved compared to other games I've seen previous, but we seem to have gone into our shell a little bit. Kyogo's done what Kyogo does. He just has to look up if he's in space, and even if he's outside the box, he can just bend it in and he just passed it into the net. What he does, has that goal killed the game? I don't know, but if history's taught us anything, we don't normally come back from that, but we'll see what happens in the second half. So, Tom, what do you do at the London branch, and how long have you been with the London branch?
So I've been with the London branch since 2019 when I moved to London, and currently my role in the London branch is primarily through merchandise and also a bit of a meet and greet. Here we are at the Beer Keller, which is a great venue, and they look after us really well. So any like-minded people out there, any Rangers supporters out there who are living in London or planning to come to London for a weekend or a little break or on business, whatever, then I would definitely look at our socials, follow the Ibrox channel, because I know you, Andy, you support us really well, and come down and join us.
It's always good fun down here, and we've had to step outside to do this. We're just outside under the glorious London Bridge in the King's capital, and because it's too noisy in there, because it does, even my Apple Watch goes off saying it's too noisy, which only ever happens at Ibrox or if it's under a hand dryer. But no, thank you for speaking to us, Tom. Might get your reaction after the game. It depends on how it goes, though, you never know. But thanks for talking to us, Tom.
No problem. You might have to edit my reaction, Andy, but let's see what happens. Whatever. Just remember, we are the people.
We certainly are, Tom. There we go, Tom White from RFCSA London, the London branch, chatting with me there at half-time on Sunday. Now, into the second half, and we started off bright again a little bit. Dessers had a chance, obviously. Oh, do you know what? Speaking of chances, I never even went into the chance in the first half, did I, that we had the offside for. I totally forgot about it because it was such a powder puff effort that it just went out of my mind. But of course, yes, we did have that Dessers chance where he's in the box, got the ball there, he's got a couple of defenders around him, but they're not closing him down. He just has to pick a corner. Schmeichel's come out, and he just limply puts it into Schmeichel's hands. Now, yeah, luckily the flag went up for offside, but still, when Dessers does that, you know he's having that game, don't you? I like Dessers. I think he's a good striker. I think he's got a place in the team. But I don't think necessarily all big games are for him. I really don't. Maybe he'll get better. I'm not seeing evidence of that in these games necessarily yet. Obviously, he has scored against Celtic, so you look at somebody like Morelos, who would cause them lots of problems in games, but he went, loads of games without actually scoring against them, despite actually causing them a lot of issues. So you kind of had that catch-22, didn't you? Sadly, Dessers really wasn't getting the service. He needs a lot of service to really be able to do anything. In these games, you're only going to get a couple of chances at times. You know, Parkhead, you can look over the years and see we're not into double figures for chances when it comes to being at Parkhead, but you just got to take them. Now, you know that if that's Celtic, they're taking those two chances. Now, I'm going to speak about the second chance now, because this reminded me of that first chance that luckily was offside, but it should have been stuck in the net. You don't hit it at the keeper, you don't put your laces through it. I know sometimes you might think, it might come off the keeper and go in, but you just got to side foot it round the keeper, just side foot it round him, straight into the back of the net, there you go. But yeah, obviously Dessers had a chance, did nothing with it, as usual. Again, it was a powder puff effort. It becomes so frustrating to kind of just talk about, but then again, we dropped out that kind of second half. We started a little bright, had a chance, created an opportunity with a little break, and then that was it. 65 minutes in, they're looking to score again. We are the architects of our downfall. Simple triangular play once again. We haven't learned. We haven't looked at tactical substitutions really to bring anybody on. Obviously, Clement did bring Tom Lawrence on for Mohamed Diamande around 58 minutes. Obviously, in the first half, which I forgot to mention, of course, Ross McCausland had to come on for Rabbi Matondo. It's frustrating to see Matondo now injured. Obviously, we didn't really know the extent at the time. Now it's the international break, so there hasn't been much news, but it does sound like he's going to face a few weeks out. He's had to withdraw from the Wales squad, and it does seem that it is a hamstring injury from what it sounds like. Now, hopefully he's not out too long. Now, luckily for once, we do have people available for that position, something last season that we were really struggling with. So, of course, we've got Cortez that can go in there. And do you know what? Even at a push, you could even stick Hefty up there, I guess. He's been all right in midfield. So, you know, he's got a lot of attacking play to his game. So, you know, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But, yeah, so it's frustrating for Rabbi. It's hopefully we don't have the injuries start creeping up, because of course we now have Yilmaz who's out, and Matondo now as well. Now, 75 minutes in, of course, we had the McGregor goal. Yep, Callum McGregor, the guy that seems to boss these games, seems to run around the midfield untouched. Very frustrating. There are lots of points of failure in the build-up to this goal. Now, he was allowed to cut across outside the area. He really should have been closed down. There's limp challenges going in, and he unleashes a shot. Annoyingly, it does take a deflection off, I think it was Sterling's boot, which gives it a bit of bend, which just takes it around Butland and in close to the post. Annoyingly, when I saw it at first, I thought, how's Butland been caught with that? It's at the perfect height for saving. You know, it's not as if he's got it in the postage stamp, but you can see it's got the deflection, so it kind of just took it away from him, took it round him. And when you see it from directly behind the goal, yeah, there's no chance for that one. Yeah, so that was 3-0, and that's when it just starts becoming frustrating. You know, it's another horror show at Parkhead. Yeah, there's not a lot of benefit. There's not a lot of things you can take from the game. The only thing you can really take from the game is that first 10 minutes. That shows that the players do have the ability to do that, but they just can't seem to keep that press up for long. There is no plan B in that respect. You are looking throughout the game, Celtic were adapting and changing. And to a point, they also kept things the same because it was working. You know, splitting the defence. Now, at times, just the fact that Kyogo, there was about 3 or 4 times he was on for a run through that midfield. Straight through, just run straight through. Ball latched on. Our left-hand side, of course, Tav was having another not great game against Maeda because Maeda's so fast and so much stronger, and Tav just, he struggles to even stand him up. And that's the thing, because obviously Tav likes to dive in and try and win possession that way. Understandable, it's what you do as a defender, but even when he doesn't, even when he just stands him up and just tries to stop the cross coming in, he doesn't. He's just not able to. I think now Clement's got to have a real sit down with James Tavernier. I think he does. I think he needs to start either looking at utilising him elsewhere. I know the chat comes up about him playing in midfield, comes up a lot. I think there was a time that would have worked. I don't think it will work now. Yes, his attacking output's getting a little better in recent weeks, but it's not been what it has been. Now, don't get me wrong, he was injured. He hasn't had the right pre-season like everyone else has. And you do see that from players that don't have a proper pre-season. That kind of, they take a bit more time getting into the season, into the games. But I do think we need to look at having Sterling in right back. I think we do. I know we lose what he gives in midfield, but I think we've got more options for midfield now. I don't think he's been as impressive in midfield so far this season. I've got to be honest. Didn't think I'd hear myself say that, but he's been average, hasn't he? He's not been phenomenal like he was last year at times. But hey, let's get back to the game, eh? Yeah, I'm going to need therapy after this. So, 78 minutes in, there was a rare decent move from us. McCausland with the ball, whips in a great cross at the back post where Tav is. Now, that reminded me of Tav under Gio, just ghosting right in at that back post. Tav hits it on the volley, hits a shot on target, straight at the keeper, and it is saved. I think 2 years ago Tav scores that. I think there would have been more conviction in it. He's just hit it and hope for the best. Personally, he's just tried to just hit it. Keeper's coming out to him. I don't know. I think he scores it a couple of years ago. I know I'm probably overanalyzing that, but I think he does. Don't get me wrong, it was a decent hit, but it just lacked any conviction, personally. Just hit it. This was the kind of point in the game where we started to really get our shots that we just hadn't done in the first half. 93 minutes in, we push late on. Tav puts a great ball in for Dessers, but it's headed away as far as Igmani, the substitute who came on for Vaclav Cherny around 18 minutes. And Igmani, I know we didn't see a lot from him. There was a couple of passes and breaks which looked really good, but I noticed here when the ball is headed away and it comes out to Igmani, he just smashes it on the volley. It looks like it's going in. I've got to be honest. Defender does the right thing, gets in the way of it and stops it, but he really caught that perfectly. That would have been really interesting to see if that was going on target. But I think he volleyed it off Carter Vickers. Looked like it was goal bound. We get a lucky break. There was the ball kind of just rolls through to McCausland, almost like a through ball. He just has to tap it either side of Schmeichel. However, hits it first time on as he's rushing out. It's saved. Just though, keeper did the right thing there, made himself big, comes off his leg. Just sums up our day, really. If that was them, that would have been in. You just know it. And yeah, that was that. Now, interestingly, when you look at the stats at the end of the game, they don't really tell the story of the game, do they? Now, you look at them and think, wow, we had the same kind of shots, same possession, which is surprising, but you break down the chances we had. Our best chance was probably Dessa's offside shot, which wouldn't have counted as a chance. We probably could have scored one, but we just didn't look like we were gonna. Now, I think shots on target wise, I think it was 4 each, which didn't feel like it, but it was. Now, that tells a little story in itself that Celtic didn't have as many shots as they kind of would normally do at home against Rangers. I've got to be honest, normally they can rack up more, especially if they are the better team, which they were, and we're playing quite poorly, especially in 3-0 games. It's not often in 3-0 games they'll only have 4 shots on goal. They'll probably have like 6 or 7. So it was weird in that respect. It wasn't a relentless onslaught of chance after chance after chance. It wasn't. It was strange in that respect. Same amount of shots off target, same amount of possession. Corner kicks, they had about 3 more. We actually had 4. There's been times we've gone to Parkhead and not had 1, which, that shows you those times. I think that was under Alex McLeish at some point. But yeah, yellow cards, we had 5, they had 4. I've got to be honest, I think a big chunk of our yellow cards weren't really yellows. Now, we can get on to John Beaton. I don't think he had the worst game. I think both sides seem a little aggrieved about things that he did. There was a couple of Celtic attacks where he brought it back for free kicks for them. Didn't play him on. And for us, he was a little card happy in that first half. And I mean, a lot of the cards he dished out, at least 2, I would say, weren't yellows. There was barely contact, but, he's fell for it. That was quite a surprise. But, looking at these games, sometimes you have to have a bit of luck on your side. I know I spoke about this earlier. We found that a lot last season. They had that run of the green last year. They were not great last year. They were struggling. I think they were about a defeat at one point away in December. If they had another defeat, I think Rodgers would have been gone. I really do. They were so poor in that kind of first part of the season. But in the Old Firm games, they just had that run of the green. They just had that rub of the green. That's the term. That they were just able to get that lucky break. I was at the first Old Firm game last season, and I don't know how we lost that game. I genuinely don't know how we lost that game. Despite us not being that great at that point, they were worse. Their makeshift defence, which is quite mad to say, but, there's some players in that defence now that you're just surprised they're still there. You wouldn't have thought they would have been there. Liam Scales, even Greg Taylor. Cameron Carter-Vickers, yeah, he's a fairly solid-ish centre-back, but, I'd probably rate him around about what Goldson was. He does have the odd mistake, but, yeah, and I think Alistair Johnson, I think he's a good defensive right-back. I don't think he's as good attacking, but for me, the weak point that we should have targeted was that defence. In that first 10 minutes, when you put them under pressure, they were just putting the ball out. They were losing possession. They were trying to play it from the back at times, and because of the amount of pressure, I was trying to close down. They were struggling with that. But how many times have we seen that in Old Firm games when you see their defence, jitter a little bit because they're under pressure, and then we just don't pressurise them? We see it too often, don't we? I want somebody that's just chomping at the bit, just annoying the hell out of them. That's kind of where you need a little bit of a Morelos. Obviously a Morelos without the red cards, but, somebody that's just going to hassle them and just force them into mistakes because they'll make them. Yeah, food for thought. But they capitalised on that kind of the little bits of luck they had last year, obviously with VAR, a few other bits, and would get that goal, and that was the key. Kyogo, despite the fact they weren't playing well, and even in a lot of Old Firm games last year, Kyogo didn't really play that well. He was a bit anonymous in a lot of the games, but still pops up with a goal, and they're always a good goal as well. You have to make your own luck in these games, though. You know, you can't rely on luck to win. And we never create luck for ourselves anymore. That's because of the way we are as a team now, I think. Don't get me wrong, this is a rebuild. Sometimes you have to ground yourself a little bit and go, right, we are in the process of a rebuild. Even Clement reckons it's going to be a few windows before you'll see, the real Rangers, and it'll be October, maybe, before you actually start to see the way we play properly. Personally, I think we had glimpses of it last weekend, and actually even the weekend before at St Johnstone. I think we started to see glimpses. And of course, last week was a lovely rout, and we were playing great football. But you have to temper that. You have to caveat that and say it is Ross County, who are probably in their worst form in a long time. They are probably a dead set to be relegated straight off, and that's not to be disrespectful to Ross County. It's just true. They lost the Spartans in the Cup, a League Two side, a new League Two side as well. They were non-league for a very long time, until just recently. They've had 2 penalties in the league this year, missed both. I think they've only scored 1 goal, I want to say. I'll have to double check that. Tell me if I'm wrong, guys. But us putting 6 past them on a pitch like Hampden, isn't probably as impressive as, beating Hibs 2-0 maybe. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I know this is where we'll kind of get on to what Clement said at the end of the game, where he said, we had one of our best results in the past 4 years at the club the week before. This is where Clement needs to understand that, yes, that was a very high-scoring game. It's up there with our 8-0 over Hamilton back in the 55 season. But do you really remember the 8-0 game over Hamilton? No. Why? Because they were terrible that year. They, obviously went down and they're in the championship now. Yes, some scores you look at and go, whew, you remember the odd score like that, especially 8, because it doesn't happen often, but you remember the 4-2s over Borussia Dortmund. They're the games you remember. The beating PSG on penalties when they had Ronaldinho in the team. That's the ones you remember. And winning all firm games is what you remember. Not 6-0 over Ross County. So I know Clement was looking for positives, but yeah, I think somebody from the club just needs to have a little sit down with them, PR wise. And because I think he does get Rangers, I think he does, but we're not looking at a Paul Le Guen here where we go to East End Park and draw, and you look at it as a good away result. No, that's not what it is at Rangers. Well, with that win for Celtic, they have now overtaken us for the most Old Firm wins. That's a record we've held on to for a very long time. This probably is the first time I've actually taken the lead with that, which says something about not just our form at the minute, but the massive kind of gulf in shift in Glasgow. You look at the money they've made from Champions League for continuous seasons in a row, because they don't have to qualify, because we've got to be honest, we know they probably wouldn't qualify because their European form just, it's little to nothing. And so they're not just coining in a lot of money from that. They are selling players like Matt O'Reilly for 27 million when they bought him 2 years ago from MK Dons for about $1 million. That's what good scouting does for you. But, them overtaking us for the most Old Firm wins is almost symbolic of change, isn't it? They're kind of riding off into the sunset a little bit. Another record lost. Now, we need to do something about it. How do we do something about it? Now, I know the club have been looking at making money from other avenues commercially. I understand things like Edmondson House. I do. I get it. You've got somewhere that can generate revenue. I think we made something like £40,000 from alcohol sales in the first, was it 9 months or something? Okay, that's something. That's good. But it's not going to make you the money that you make, with player trading. Player trading's the best way of doing it. Now, I know that's something we're looking at now, and that's something that Bennett has even admitted, that kind of there's not really much evidence of a player trading model, because we have the odd, players that we sell for a lot of money, like Calvin Bassey, Patterson, but few and far between. Now, don't get me wrong, we seem to be selling players more for more money than what we ever have, really, because I grew up when we'd pay a lot of money for a player and we'd let them go for nothing. You'd get a few £100,000. The Artetas, there's been so many players during my childhood and teenage years where we've put a big outlay in for them, and you very rarely see it back. Now, that's kind of something that we've had to do this summer. It doesn't help that we've been very vocal that we need to get rid of players, which never really helps when, all right, it helps the clubs come sniffing around because they think they can get a bargain, but they know they can haggle more. They know they can get closer to deadline day and really haggle. Yeah. For me, with the Old Firm game there, the big problem was the way we responded to the offside goal. I think that was a big part in us losing. I think for years we've had a psychological problem against them, and we have. We let it get into our heads. You've got players like Bona Barisic that are on their knees, while goals were, not even in the back of the net yet. And I think some of that has transferred. I don't think Tav's confident going there. Now, Tav, we do have to be honest, is one of our better players there. He's one of the few that actually scores at Parkhead. You don't see it often. I think our last player to do that, to be able to score at Parkhead, Hampden and Ibrox, was probably Sakala, if we're being honest. And before that, it would have been a long time ago. Probably Kenny Miller or somebody like that. Obviously, Tav's in a different situation now, isn't he? He's just done. Now, there are some, speaking of James Tavernier, there are some rumours flying around that there is a possibility that he could be going to Besiktas or Trabzonspor, because the Turkish window is open till the 18th of September. Now, I don't know if this is just a reaction to what happened the other day outside the stadium. Obviously on Sunday, some fans went to kind of protest and were shouting at the players. And obviously James Tavernier reacted and kind of was whisked away by security. Now, don't abuse players, frankly. Now, you can voice, what can you do better? We need better. We need a better performance. We need more. We need you to leave your hearts out on that pitch, but you don't go and, abuse a player that's coming out of their work. That's just not right. But I don't know if that's because I think that article in regards to James Tavernier being linked with Turkey, I think it's come from the Sun, so I don't know what insight they'd really have, because they had a story about American investment, didn't they? And then it was quashed within 5 minutes by another one of their own exclusives saying it wasn't. So, yeah. Now, with Sunday, we got what we deserved. And we did. We didn't deserve to win that game. Didn't deserve much out of it either. But in a weird way, considering the scoreline, I've seen us get battered worse. just wasn't that continual onslaught, relentless attack that you normally see from them. Don't get me wrong. I think that comes down to them just conserving energy. I think they knew the game was done 2-0 at half-time. They knew we weren't getting back into it. And I think they took the foot off the gas. But the thing that frustrates me at the minute is I don't see them losing points. And again, this is what boils down to us relying on them making a mistake, not us being good. We can't rely on us to just go on a run, because we're now 5 points behind. We're also not in second place. Aberdeen are 5 points ahead of us as well. We now have no wiggle room. We have no wiggle room whatsoever going into the season. Now, don't get me wrong. You can come back from 5 points down at this stage of the season. Of course you can. It's a long season. But now the depth they've got, that team that beat us 3-0, they left 20-odd million on the bench because there were new players just coming in the door. Their team that was primarily the team from last year. But the difference is their pre-season worked. They worked on what their problems were last year and made them better. They persevered and won the league title because they got better. And they got better because they fought. They know how to win a title. Pre-season, they clearly worked on a lot of things like fitness. They look fitter than they did last year. They look sharper. And importantly, they look hungry. They want to win. Do our players really look like they want to win at the minute? And I'm not necessarily singling out all the players in the team, but the leaders in the team, have they just got used to not really winning anything? It's an interesting one. I say interesting one. It's not interesting at all. Just start winning games, guys. That's what we need. Now, I've been talking for a very long time about this game, and it is going to be a long season, but we'll be there at the Ibrox channel. Right, I'm going to play for you now the thoughts of Billy, who is a patron at the Bermondsey Beer Killer at RFCSA London, the London branch, and here's his full-time thoughts. Right, it's not long after the final whistle here at the Bermondsey Beer Killer, the home of the RFCSA London branch. It is Celtic 3, Rangers 0. I'm here with Billy, one of the patrons here at the London branch, and your initial thoughts after the final whistle there. 3-0 Celtic, is that deserved for them?
Annoyingly, yes. I think the problem we have is when we make a mistake, they punish us. When they make a mistake, we play it lateral or we come back. And I think that's the big difference. Don't get me wrong, in time with coaching and with the right players, that might change. But unfortunately, I think they're a level above us at the minute.
Yeah, they do seem to be a level above. I kind of hark back to pre-season where last year that Celtic side, it's a vastly unchanged Celtic side really. They've bought a few new players, and granted they've spent a lot of money on players, but that side managed to just get through to the league title. There was a lot of hiccups on the way. We collapsed as usual. And you look at that and you think, okay, reset, get in, pre-season, bring some players in. We have brought in around 10, 11 players, but our pre-season seems to have been vastly different to theirs. Now, going to Parkhead and losing isn't uncommon. It is something that happens. Many big teams have gone there and done the same. But after that first opening 8 to 10 minutes, you think that, this could be our day, especially then after when they score, the goals disallowed, you think you've just got that little bit of luck. Do we have to rely on luck a bit too much now?
So I think we do. I think that level of press, if you're a Man City or an Arsenal, you can do it. I don't think we got the players to do it. I don't think we got the fitness to do it. So we did that for the first, we'll call it 12 to 15 minutes. And then you can see by half-time, we needed half-time. They were in the ascendancy. I think what we probably need to do is maybe go back to not necessarily attractive European-style football and just play to, at times, our strengths, and sometimes just be a little bit brutalist. But at the same stage, it's an improvement in what I've seen for the last couple of years, so I'm not going to complain too much. Baby steps and all that. If you look after the first goal was actually well played by them. You can't fault anybody. Second goal was a little bit weak by us. And then the third goal, unlucky deflection, took it away from the goalkeeper. There was not as big a margin of defeat as some people might look at it. Did they deserve it? Yes. But at the same stage, you're looking and going...
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because on paper, it's not a 3-0 when you look at that. But at the same time, they did create more chances. They took their chances. We did create stuff in the second half. Sadly, shot straight at the keeper from, I think it was McCausland. Was it McCausland?
Yep.
Dessers had a chance as well. And we are in very familiar territory now with another defeat. We're now 5 points behind. Even Aberdeen are 5 points ahead of us. Yes, we're in an early part of the season. Clement himself says you won't see the real Rangers to October, November. Do you believe that? Do you believe Clement's the right man still for the job?
I'm not going to say he's not the right person for the job, but at the same stage, I'm not going to turn around and say he is. As I think when you've got people like Hadji sat there, and I get it for financial reasons. You've got people like Cantwell, who, again, I don't necessarily like, but who's sent out a message saying that it's a different team than what he thought he was joining. Clement's made an impact. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a positive impact at this moment in time. I hope it is. And you see the signings he's made. You see people like Hefty, who looks like a really good player. But at the same time, Cerny looks like half a player. He's so one-footed that they've already worked him out. And we're, 4 games into the season. So it's 6 and 2 frees for me at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's interesting about Cherny actually, because I think he'll be quite a strong player for us. But is he? Do you think he's a bit one-dimensional in that respect, that they worked him out just too easily in that respect? And don't get me wrong, he's played for Ajax, he's played some very good clubs, but is it? I think he scored against Celtic. I think it was 9 years ago or something like that. So have we just got him a little bit later in his career? I know there's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes now. We're at the end of a defeat on paper, which looks horrible. But are there positives you can take away from that?
Oh, 100%. There's I say the margin between us and Celtic, who are a Champions League team on paper, and us it wasn't a 3-0. If that was a 1-0, nobody would argue about it. But I do believe that we're talking about Sienna again. I do believe he's easily been worked out already. He's always going to cut back inside. His right foot is pretty weak by the looks of things. And if you employ him in that one job, they've worked it. But you can also employ him in other jobs, so it's not necessarily defeated yet. And as you're right to say, he's played at a higher level. He played Czech Republic. He's played for a lot of places. But we seem still to be having a little bit more Lammers than we're having Morelos at this moment in time, shall we say?
I just shuddered there when you said that.
Yeah, and it's one of them ones where it'd be quite nice. And I think we're getting there with Clement. So most of Clement's signings have been better. But at the same stage, they seem to be unpicking stars whilst we're unpicking certain types of players.
Yeah, you can't argue that their player trading model has worked, especially over the past couple of years. Like just picking Matt O'Reilly from MK Dons for about £1 million, which is just, that's something that, and don't get me wrong, we've had a few, but it's ground to a halt. Now, there's a long season ahead. We've got some interesting Europa League fixtures coming up. Is the league over? By no doubt right now. Personally, from what I've seen from Clement, is we're starting to see a real attacking side in regards to football, which is something nice to see. We try to keep the ball on the ground from the keeper coming out, which is good, because there's been too many times where we just punted the ball up the park and it just doesn't work, because you can do that against Ross County, you can do that against other teams where you're looking for that second ball, and it's something that you're not going to see against Celtic. And there were times we moved the ball around quite well, but end of the day, there was a bit of a disjoint between the middle to the front. Sadly, Dessers was a little anonymous in the game. I'm not going to totally blame him. He's got a place at Rangers, and he does have a place at Rangers. He does score goals, but today probably wasn't for him. I don't even think Danilo today would have made an impact. I think he would have been a bit too slow in that attack. Importantly, for me, just the initial thoughts, their fitness was much better in the second half, something that we couldn't really do. Obviously, we had quite a few yellow cards, so obviously Diamandi came off because he was on a yellow. Tom Lawrence comes on and gets a yellow, of course. We'll talk a little bit more on the actual pod about some of the yellow cards for him beaten, but yeah, it's 3-0. It's going to hurt. It's not nice to lose to your rivals, but we are getting too used to losing to Celtic, aren't we?
Yeah, it's. I think there's quite a big group in the bar today, and none of us were surprised. If it was when we were competitive and we went 3-0 down, you would have seen the bar empty. There's a lot of people still sat there because we probably expect this to happen, and we still sang our songs. We're still being loyal to the club, but you're right. I think it's become the new normal, and something needs to break this.
It's so different to when you grew up, though, isn't it? When you obviously you talk about Rangers, you talk about Old Firm games. You expect to win. I'm going into this expecting, the best outcome being a draw, which just shows the changed times. But you know what? The season's not over. It's a sore one, but we have to move on, as they always say, the old cliche. But Billy, thank you ever so much for talking to the Ibrox channel, and I'll see you again next time.
No dramas, and it's all getting better. It's not depressing. We're moving forward.
We certainly are. Cheers, Billy. Right, cheers to Billy there for his thoughts at the end of the game. He was as scunnered and as frustrated as all of us. If you are down at the Bermondsey Beer Keller, I'm looking to go to a lot of the games, so if you do want to have a chat, please feel free to. You can chat about anything, and hopefully you'll be on the pod. But thanks to everyone that did speak to me from RFCSA London, the London branch. We're going to be working very closely, and we're looking to do some collaboration podcasts as well, because they've been going since 1961, and one of the oldest Rangers supporters clubs around, based in the heart of central London. Of course, on Tooley Street at the Bermondsey Beer Keller, as I say, just right directly under London Bridge. You've got the best transport links there, so if you are in London, if you're down there for the weekend, or if you live in London or the southeast, the southwest there, you can nip on a train, get to London Bridge, and you'll be there with fellow Bears to watch the games. Now, you've got some big games coming up, of course. You've got the Europa League, which doesn't seem as appealing right now, does it? Especially after that result. But I think I can imagine that Manchester United fans probably aren't feeling so confident after their scoreline on Sunday, if we're being honest. We think we've got problems. At least ours didn't cost hundreds of millions. But just before we go, there's been some news for Connor Barron today. He's actually been called up to the Scotland squad. So obviously Scotland have got the Nations League double header with Portugal and Poland. And so, yeah, there we go. His call-up does come in, I think, though, because quite a few players dropped out. James Forrest, Shea Adams, Robbie McCrory, and Greg Taylor. So he's in there. So, well done, Barron. But listen, mate, don't become Ryan Jack. Don't get injured. Just don't get injured, mate. That's all we ask. You can play for Scotland, but don't get injured. Thank you. So yeah, if you don't follow us on Twitter, head over to the Ibrox channel on Facebook as well, Instagram, Threads, and of course TikTok. Doing a lot of stuff on there. You might find this video on there, and of course YouTube. You'll probably find this video on there as well. So do look out for them. I'll be trying to do a bit more content over the next few weeks. I've done a lot of collaboration pods. I'll be on. I think the next podcast is I'm going to be with the wonderful Scott McPike over at SM Media. He does the Rangers assessment pod, and I'll be on there. Once again, dissecting that Old Firm game. I'm definitely going to need therapy by the end of the week. But just before I go, I'd just like to give a big shout out to one of my good pals, Gordon Dixon. I used to work with Gordon. He's a big blue nose, and he's taken the big plunge, or I should say big plunger, in the past couple of years, and he's set up his own shop, which is absolutely fantastic. A hardware shop in Brigton, of course, in Glasgow. So you will find his hardware shop on the main street in Bridgeton, and he has a website as well, hardwareshops.co.uk. Whatever blocks your drain, we can help. And he's a good guy, and it's so hard these days to set up any new business, let alone a shop, because you know, what online has done to the high street is almost killed it. So fair play to you, big man. You're running your shop, and it's something very difficult to do. So if you do need any hardware supplies, and you are in the kind of East End of Glasgow, then head down to Bridgeton, and he is on Main Street in Bridgeton, and you'll find him there, the hardware shop. So big shout out to you, Gordon, and well done. So if you do need a plunger, or if you do need some tools or anything, do head down there. I'm sure you'll have what you need. Anyway, guys, I've been Andrew, and as Yaz once said, the only way is up. So hopefully that's the case when we get back to league business after the international window. So thank you for listening. I know it's not been the best pod, but we've got to talk about it, haven't we? And I'll see you all very soon. Cheery bye, guys. Take care.